cell division and reproduction. Many organisms start with an egg and a sperm, and as they fuse together through fertilization, they form a zygote. The zygote is one cell, and the egg and the sperm contains half amount of chromosome compared to the zygote. And because they contain half amount of chromosomes, they are called haploid cells. The full set of chromosome containing cells are called diploid cells. Let's put a graph in here, 9 months of pregnancy for humans, and it starts from one cell as a zygote and turns into 10 trillion cells at the end of the 9 months, so the newborn. After that, after birth, the organism also needs to grow, and it's not only humans, other organisms too, but we focus on, for the example, it's humans, as well as cell division is needed for replacing cells like the red blood cells that contain only 120, they can live only 120 days, and replacing through cell division, replacing an entire organism like a paramecium too. So this is the paramecium, the cilia on the outside, the nucleus inside with the chromosomes, and the vacuole is that spitting out the water. Remember that the hypotonic solution and the hypertonic stuff. Okay, so cell division is important for three aspects. Number one is forming the organism from zygote to an offspring. The entire offspring is number one. Number two is growing, let the organisms grow. That's why we need cell division, as well as replacing cells or the organism. This is the third important function of the cell division. Reproduction. This will be our next topic, the reproduction. It can be asexual reproduction and it can be sexual reproduction, both of them. Asexual reproduction needs, actually generates genetically identify offsprings, and it needs only one parent. The types of asexual reproduction are budding. Think about a duckweed in the pond, the leaf-like structure and the root-like structure. As time goes by, a bud would form on the side of the leaf, on the duckweed, and it would really turn into an organism, and it pretty much gets off from the parent, splits off eventually. That happens with the duckweed as well as the hydra in the water. The other type is the fragmentation and regeneration. So it's two names for one, because it starts with fragmentation, and regeneration is the second step in that asexual reproduction. Flowers and in agriculture, they use fragmentation and regeneration very often. Here is a geranium, however you just say it. We take off a leaf, put it in a soil, and a new flower will grow out of that leaf. The leaf will start to form roots and flowers, and that flower will be genetically identical to the parent flower. So also the starfish and the sponge reproduce like that asexually. starfish loses its arm with a little bit of body, central cavity, and will turn into another starfish. The third one is the fission, and the organism, like a sea anemone, will grow and split into equal size organisms. So pretty much the same size for both of them, and they start to have their new life. Now, thumbs up. Why is that so good? What is good about asexual reproduction? The first reason is there's no motion required from the organism to reproduce. They can reproduce in isolation too. It's very fast and makes many offsprings, very effective, and no needs of gametes like sperms and eggs. That's the thumb up for that reproduction. On the other hand, thumbs down. So the not really good part of asexual reproduction is that there's not going to be genetic variants in the population for that species. So evolution is pretty much not going to happen. If the environment would change those organisms that they are identical genetically, they would die off totally. So the total population can die off. So the other one is the sexual reproduction. And animals and other kingdoms too can reproduce or reproduce only sexually. Some animals can do asexual and sexual reproduction depending on the environment. Okay, yeah, we will talk about that later. So here is a cat and another cat. So one of them is male, another one is female. Their gametes will fuse together to form the zygote, and through cell reproduction it will be an offspring. But the color of the offspring can be many different colors, and the organisms will be genetically unique, and 2 parents are needed for sexual reproduction. So we talked about fusing the 2 gametes, the sex cells. The gametes are the sperm cells as well as the egg cells, and one from each to form the zygote. Why is that so good? Genetic variance. So it's going to increase the chance of survival and leads to evolution, and that's really good. Some organisms reproduce by asexual and sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction can happen in good times in marine animals, and when it's bad time, they form sexual reproduction. Also, there are animals or organisms with hermaphroditism. These organisms contain both sperms and eggs in their body. What happens at the cellular level? 3 types of cell reproduction exists in biology, and we are going to cover them later on, a couple of the 2 other ones. Focus on first on the prokaryotes. Single-celled bacteria and archaea reproduce by this type of cell reproduction, and it's called the binary fission. We have the bacteria, a prokaryotic cell that contains the chromosome with proteins, and it's a circular genetic material. It's when it so the organism, when it want to just go through division, it will increase in size, and it duplicates its chromosome into 2 of them, and this is the duplication and separation time when the duplicated chromosomes will separate. Now the second stage is the elongation, when the chromosomes move to the opposite ends of the cell, and later comes the division. The cell membrane just pinches and 2 new bacteria will form. This is the last, is the division phase. The eukaryotes contains somatic cells as well as gametes and or sex cells. Eukaryotes contain more genes, multiple chromosomes, and they have a nucleus. That is really the important part. Somatic cells are the body cells, every cell in your body except, we will cover that, but the body cells will go through mitosis. They are the somatic cells. And the gametes or sex cells will go through meiosis. And that's it.